Oh man, this is going to be a fun video. What do Red Bull and Renault have in common? Well, apparently more than meets the eye. Not respected team orders, tension rising in the Austrian team, and even a purposeful crash that will all be present in this video. And it's assured that Ferrari fans are going to have a great time watching Red Bull crumble under tension as they are at risk of losing both of their championships. Let's not waste any more time then and address the elephant in the room. What the hell was wrong with Verstappen this last race? I'm not talking about pure race pace, since the RB18 had been struggling all weekend, and it's not that surprising it didn't win the Grand Prix. What I'm talking about was his move on Perez during the final laps of the race. The overtake itself was nothing special, just Max being faster in a straight line thanks to DRS, meaning he passed his teammate even before getting into turn 1. What was weird about the episode was the team's radios before and after the overtake. As we all know, this year Verstappen has won the Drivers' Championship with almost 3 races to go. So it wouldn't really have mattered for him to just wait behind Checo until the checkered flag, and that's exactly what the team asked him to do. They asked that and he didn't answer. Christian Horner asked that 3 times and he still didn't answer. He then made the overtake. Believing that it was just something the world champion did to also overtake Alonso, they asked him if he could give back the position to his teammate in case he didn't succeed at passing Fernando. Once again, no answer from Verstappen. At this point, either his radio was broken or he just wasn't listening. The race went on and Max finished a respectable 6th, which was not only disappointing, but also useless. Why did he need those extra 2 points? His teammate was and currently is struggling in the championship to get 2nd place, but Verstappen chose to keep that position to himself. Don't get me wrong, it was deserved, but it's in these occasions that you start to question whether or not a team has potential to be competitive in the long term. And currently, Red Bull doesn't. To remain in 2nd place, Perez would have needed those 2 extra points stolen by his teammate, but now he's going into the last race with equal points to Charles Leclerc, and that's a big problem for Red Bull. Securing a 1-2 in the championship is much more important than having their already world champion get all the points to himself. And even if Max had overtaken Alonso, he still didn't need the points he gained overtaking him and Perez. So why then? Why did he do this to his own teammate? Well, the answer isn't that simple. Ask Checo and he will say it shows who he really is. In his opinion, this is probably a matter of greed by Verstappen, who wants all the points to himself. Ask Verstappen and he will say he had his reasons. But what are those reasons? First of all, it could all come down to the fact that Checo didn't give Max his slipstream at Paul Ricard or at Monza, but that's much shallower than what happened in this race. In fact, he even said right after the race on the radio, "I told you already last summer, you guys don't ask that again to me, okay? Are we clear about that? I gave my reasons and I stand by it." Whoa, that can't be the result of a missed slipstream. Furthermore, even asking these kinds of questions isn't right to the team and to Checo himself. He in fact sacrificed his race in Abu Dhabi last year just to hold up Lewis Hamilton so that Max could catch up to them with fresher tyres. You could say that he didn't have anything to lose as his championship was already over, but again, it's the same in this episode for Verstappen. They even announced it to Checo on the radio before the finish line that he was about to be let through, so that's really twice as bad as it would have been otherwise. But again, what other reason could Max have had for this missed move? Well, in the team radio, he said that he explained himself last summer, but what this means goes deeper than you think. This goes back to the Monaco Grand Prix in May, and according to what he said to numerous interviewers, there might be a scandal that could get Perez or even the whole team out of the championship. Let's recap a bit what happened back then. It's qualifying, and in Q3, just before the final laps can be completed, the provisional starting grid has Leclerc on pole with Sainz behind him, Checo in 3rd and then Max. It's in these last minutes that Checo spins out of the session into the barriers of Portiere, turn 8. Carlos then also spins, making contact with a stuck Perez and making the session be red flagged. Of course, that accident wasn't intentional. Or was it? Well, Max suspects that it was in fact intentional. He in fact could have done that to start in front of his teammate on a track where overtaking is pretty much impossible. But before you go comment that Max is crazy and should retire, we might have proof that he's telling the truth. And not just any proof, but the telemetry data. Since during the incident Checo spun, let's look at how to make an F1 car spin. Let's take Sebastian Vettel at Baku during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. After missing the braking point following the second DRS straight while trying to overtake Tsunoda, he went straight into the runoff area instead of still trying to turn, risking to go directly into the barriers. The runoff area is located from the rest of the circuit. So in order not to lose any more time than he already had, he turns his steering wheel a bit, suddenly accelerated while in a low gear, making the rear tyres spin and getting him a Formula 1 grade U-turn. Now, let's look at telemetry from that lap in Monaco, comparing how Max and Sergio do that blind slow corner. First of all, looking from the TV pod camera, we can see that Checo steers much less than Verstappen. But that just comes down to their personal driving styles, as in other laps, they still had this difference. Then, looking at the throttle graph, we can see a sudden acceleration to 93% in Perez's case, which led him to spin and lose control, crashing into the barriers with the rear of his car making millions of dollars in damage. Does that sound familiar to you? Isn't that exactly how you do a U-turn in a Formula 1 car? Well, to me it does, and most importantly, it does to the FIA stewards too, as they launch an investigation on this event, and in the near future, we will have further news about this. The thing is that Checo did gain something from crashing in qualifying, and that was starting in front of his teammate right behind the two Ferraris, which meant that when the Italian team messed up the strategy as expected, Sergio managed to pass both of them, winning the Grand Prix. According to Max, he later admitted to Christian Horner and Helmut Marko that he did that on purpose, so Verstappen didn't forget about this that easily. So what does this mean for the team? Well, if they're found guilty of modifying the race results by crashing one of their drivers on purpose, then they're going to face serious consequences. The situation is really similar to what Renault did with Nelson Piquet Jr. at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, when the team made that driver crash on purpose to help Fernando Alonso win the race thanks to a late safety car. The difference here is that it was the driver's idea to crash, meaning the team wouldn't be as badly conditioned as Renault was. This situation is much more similar to when in 1994 Michael Schumacher crashed allegedly on purpose in the 1994 Australian Grand Prix into his only championship rival Damon Hill. He was later disqualified not only from the race, but from the whole championship he finished second in. That would probably be the fairest option to use with Perez if the FIA finds a way to demonstrate that he did in fact crash on purpose. This will not help out the team in the future, as their drivers already have a bad enough relationship between them as it is, and are willing to crash on purpose to get a higher grid slot. Does this mean that Perez is out of contention for the second place in the championship? No, definitely not. Red Bull has declared that Verstappen will be helping him out in Abu Dhabi, and he agreed to what they said. Man, now more than ever I don't know who to trust. So what do you think? Will Verstappen help out Perez in the future? Is a civil war going to explode at the Red Bull headquarters? Let us know in the comment below, and don't forget to subscribe, because at 10,000 subscribers, we're going to try and get into the Red Bull F1 team so that we can deliver news fresh from the factory. No, not really, but you should subscribe anyway.